All right, how's it going, everyone? Day 2, we are in path 12, Baratchial, or Baratchial, however you want to say it. I say Baratchial. We're starting in the Nightside of Eden. It's going to be a little bit shorter of a chapter today, so maybe we'll cover some other things. Who knows? All right, without further ado, let's get started. The 12th path, or Kala, is attributed to the planet Mercury, and its shadow masses in the form of Baratchial, whose sigil is this. Should have already had this prepared here. There we go. And here's a little bit more simple rendition of it. There you go. All right. Now, Baratchial's number is 260. The sigil should be painted in a yellow, deeper than that used for the sigil of Improteus, upon a vesica-shaped plaque of indigo rayed with violet. The name Baratchial, or Baratchial, should be vibrated in the key of E, as with the previous sentinel, but there should be a suggestion of chattering or tittering accompanying the vibration, which should not be even. 260 is the sum of this mathematical series. It looks like sigma 1 minus parenthetical 8 times 8 divided by 8. Don't know a whole lot about math. 8 being the number of Mercury as a cosmic power zone. 8 relates to Hod. And also Mercury. Okay. 260 is the number of Tiriel, the intelligence of Mercury. So we shall expect to find a very precise reflection and inversion of this entity in the depths of the abyss, where the path becomes a tunnel transmitting infernal influences. And this we do, in fact, find for 260 is also the number of Temera, the concealed or hidden, and of Khmer, a priest, KMR. Not of the light, but of the dark. For KMR means blackness. Kamal? Not sure. Its root being the Egyptian Kam, black, Kam. Yet, although the 12th path is that of the magician, or Magus, or Magus, the black or hidden priest should not be identified with the black magician, but with the black brother. And this is sort of like a Crowleyan take on the idea of a black brother, one more or less who is suspended in the abyss and refuses to let go of their impurities, more or less. This is the Kala of the sorceress, the Monim, also equal to 260, who transmit the light direct from beyond Keter to Saturn via the formula of duality. And there's a note here. The letter Bet, which is ascribed to the 12th Kala, is synonymous with our word both, implying duality. Duality is expressed zoomorphically by the twin serpents Ad and Ab, another note here, but not in their balanced form, as on the obverse of the tree. Okay. Duality is expressed zoomorphically by the twin serpents Ad and Ab, and by the ape, the shadow of the Magus, who, according to tradition, distorts and perverts the word of the Magus, thus making a mockery of his work, as do the Black Brothers with their formula of duality. And this says, it is the one reflected that becomes two. Likewise, 11 is the number of those who are of us. Okay, so this is evidenced by the symbols of Baratchial, 2 swords with inturned blades, suggesting intense concentration on the ego as opposed to the self of all, flanking a ghostly face mask surmounted by a crescent moon. The sigil is a glyph of falsity and illusion, reflected in the current of duality that reveals the shadow of Thoth and the image of his ape or kynocephalus. Okay. This doctrine is expressed in the second verse of CCXXXI, or 231. That's Liber Carcerorum, which was one of Crowley's works about the Qliphoth, if you don't know that. The lightnings increased, and the Lord Tahuti, i.e. Thoth, stood forth. The voice came from the silence. Then the One ran and turned. The One is Keter, and it returned to its own power zone because the vibration of this Kala is illusory and cannot transmit truth. Its vibration duplicates that of the previous Kala, thus creating a mere simulacrum of the creative spirit. Or simulacrum, however you want to say that. And a simulacrum is essentially a copy. It's a simulation. That's one reason that I refer to certain types of puppets as crumbs. It's an abbreviation of simulacrum. Moving on. Okay. The Black Brother is double-tongued as the serpent, which is significant, for the magical power ascribed to the obverse aspect of which this path is the tunnel, is the gift of tongues, the gift of healing, and a knowledge of sciences. The healing here, however, is the healing of the ego, which merely aggravates, with illusion, the disease of false identity, creating thereby a chain of endless suffering. Likewise, the sciences of which knowledge is given are the sciences of darkness. Yet it must not be supposed that these are necessarily evil. It is merely that in the hands of the Black Brother, they are necessarily, oh, here we go. Okay. My apologies. I'm going to start over there. Yet it must not be supposed that these are necessarily evil. It is merely that in the hands of the Black Brother, the necessarily alien systems of consciousness. That didn't make sense. Okay. My apologies, folks. Yet it must not be supposed that these are necessarily evil. It is merely that in the hands of a Black Brother, they necessarily tend to sterility, because directed toward the fulfillment of holy personal ambitions. The dark sciences of this path contain the secrets of the Kalas of the void, and of that Kalinian current, which obtains the Widdershin's world of anti-light. The witches and wizards of this tunnel speak with voices that are reflected into the aura of the adept by the mechanism of unnatural acoustics associated with the mysterious ventriloquism of Bath Kal, the voice of the oracle. The Bath, or Beth, is the house or womb of the Supreme Kala, and of the source of that ventriloquism that was primal in the myths of man. The Beth is the house or womb of the Supreme Kala, and of the source of that ventriloquism that was primal in the myths of man. For the Word was endowed with flesh and issued from the belly of the mother. Here again, the number of Baratchial, 260, corroborates the doctrine of this path of Beth, for it is the number of Minmon, M-I-N-M-O-N, pleasures, delights, and Irkik, I-R-K-I-K, thy thighs, which reveals the sexual nature of these pleasures. The disease typical of this path is ataxaphasia, which here refers specifically to disorders of the faculty of speech, typified by the bestial howlings or cachinations of the pre-human creation, and by that monstrous speech mentioned in Liber 7, that thrills beyond the veil of the void. The dangers attendant upon the use of this kala are extreme. Yet the advantages that may be gained would seem to outweigh them in that the adept is able to transcend the merely conceptual transmission of imagery. He is thus able to maneuver specific atavisms at a level deeper than those he could penetrate as a magus. This is because the silence of the outer spaces, like the music of the spheres, may be apprehended only when the ape-like chattering of the magician's vehicle has been subdued by contact with the transcosmic forces that sweep through this tunnel from the pathways of the great inane. The latter is the ain, or void, the unwinking eye, which emits invisible rays that reify within the innermost sanctuaries of the adept's non-being. He then becomes the Magus of power. And there's a note here. The title of the tarot trump equated with the obverse path. He then becomes the Magus of power in a true and totally different sense to that in which this power has been understood in any previous aeon. For that power, Shakti, is primal and does not exist apart from the shadow, the solidification of which is the entified Magus, whose word is but falsehood and glamour. This particular kala shows clearly how the face of the tree is and can only be a facade. This is so because a reified and therefore dualistic interpretation of the hidden currents of energy that pulse through the tunnels of the other side of the tree transmit the energies of non-being. It is in this sense that the one ran and returned. To where did it return? The manifested word returned to the silence of non-manifestation. Okay. Moving on. Reading from Linda Falorio's Shadow Tarot. Again, here's the image. You can screenshot that if you'd like and use that to meditate on. Okay. The Magus. And this is the shadow of the Magus, essentially. The psychonaut willfully manipulates consciousness and psyche to see beyond the veil that separates the worlds. The psychonaut willfully manipulates consciousness and psyche to see beyond the veil that separates the worlds. It's not just about manipulating materia in front of you. It's also about shifting the internal structures as well. In the tunnel of Baratchial, the mocking ape of Thoth has deposed the Magus of power of dayside tarots, instinctually manipulating the elements of formation, not the elements of solar consciousness, but those of dark sciences of the void, to dissolve ego, alter consciousness, and see beyond the veil that separates the worlds. Fire in the tunnel of Baratchial is represented by Amanita muscaria. Fly agaric sprung from lightning, flesh of the gods, is the divinely given means of astral traveling, with them used since ancient times by witches, sorcerers, and shamans. Think the red mushroom with the white flecks. It's a dissociative. Water is bufomarinus, whose toxic properties, bufogenin, bufotoxin, bufotenine, extracted by boiling in oil, are 150 times more powerful a heart stimulant than curare. This sea toad extract, known to the Chinese as chansu, toad venom. I don't know Chinese, but it looks like it says it's CH apostrophe AN space SU, chansu, toad venom, was used as a hallucinogenic snuff by the Amazon Indians of the upper Orinoco. Remains were found at Cozumel, where the rain god, Tlaloc, was worshipped by the Mayan priesthood with this hallucinogen's ingestion. Air is crapaude de mer. Crapaude de mer? I don't know French either. Pufferfish. Crapaude space de space mer. Crapaude de mer. Pufferfish, bluefish, sea squab, fugu, known for ability to puff their bodies, yields tetrodotoxin, a deadly neurotoxin 160,000 times more potent than cocaine. All right. This chemical creates living death, consciousness imprisoned in an unresponsive body. Reminds me a little bit of how Nightshade is. Anyway, and imparts the gourmet of intoxication of a brush with death. It uses in ritual zombification. Its uses in ritual zombification are very ancient, remains having been found in Egyptian tombs of the T dynasty, the 5th dynasty. Earth is human skull and tibia shavings, both traditional ingredients of dark preparations. The cauldron, the womb in which all combine into a hell broth, is of the ancient Anasazi, who entered our dimensional world through the Kiva's Sipapu, climbing into time and mysteriously disappearing again into the trans-dimensional void. Witches and wizards, smoke illusions born of this hellish brew, drawn by transcosmic forces sweeping from the pathways of the great inane, are sucked at last into the void, the ain, the unknowing eye, oblivion. Baratchial meditation, the powers of the tunnel of Baratchial. The powers of the tunnel of Baratchial are the powers of the psychonaut extraordinaire, with power to realize consciousness and ego as byproducts of biochemistry. Pay attention to this, folks. Affected by the individual subconscious mind, by the collective unconscious, and by the animal nature, little self. Here is power to willfully manipulate consciousness through biochemical means. Some of you are going to ignore this and you're going to spend months and months trying to get this information in a different way, but it's right here. Anyway, here is power to willfully manipulate consciousness through biochemical means, exploring unknown worlds within, evolving into far unknown future selves, mutating by absorbing cosmic rays of infinitely corroding light into unshielded, yielding psyche. This is the ability to open inner gates in a natural way, in a ritualistic manner. All the drugs that work because there is something within you that they mimic. We can create these states naturally through symbols and colors and incantations. And Baratchial is the tunnel of dark science, where witch doctors search for bioactive preparations to subtly affect the human psyche, where pharmacologists search for new drugs deep in Amazonian forests, where scientists search for new elements which may be stably combined only via the weightlessness of interstellar space, where lies the constant search for new ways to chemically manipulate the environment and ourselves for peace and for war. The need to work with the energies of Baratchial may be signaled by experiencing feelings of inordinate investment in the individual ego and its products, such as are mirrored in the ID fixie, IDEE space FIXEE, that man is the crown of creation. So the fixed idea, perhaps. The ID fixie that man is the crown of creation. Here too we may encounter those who cling to solar consciousness at the same time evincing abhorrence of altered realities. Danger to the undeveloped ego. Danger to the undeveloped ego is zombification into an unthinking slave of science, mass culture, mass consciousness. Okay. Any questions? Good. Put them in the comments. Moving on. Interesting. Opened right to it and I didn't even mark it. Again, we're just going to get to, well, you know, we've got some extra time today. Actually, we don't really. Maybe just a little bit. So here's a reference to Linda Falorio from Asenath Mason. This is going to be like a summary of what we just read in a different way, so it may be beneficial. Linda Falorio writes in The Shadow Tarot that the influence of Baratchial manifests in the form of witch doctors searching for bioactive substances to affect the human psyche. That's a pretty good synopsis of what we just read, but also scientists searching for ways to manipulate people in the environment by chemical means. So, trying to see. Yeah, she's pretty much just parroting Linda Falorio here. All right, we're just going to get on to the path working here. This says, project the sigil onto the black canvas of your inner mind. And this is referring to the sigil that is given here, but obviously you can use the symbol, the sigil of Baratchial. So, project the sigil onto the black canvas of your inner mind and visualize that for a moment everything fades away and the whole world disappears. Then the darkness around you crystallizes into a scene. You are standing in front of a black portal rising from the ground. It is surrounded by black rays of energy, which writhe and twist like serpents or tentacles. When you go inside, you find yourself in a temple that looks like a cathedral. It is huge, and its walls are made of human skulls and bones. The only difference is that they are black. The building looks abandoned, and there is no light, no sound. You walk toward a stone altar in the center of this temple. The only thing you can see there is a broken vessel. As you approach, the guardian emerges from the dark. He looks like a tall man with two heads, one human, the other skeletal. He's wearing a dark blue robe and holding a trident in his hand. With a gesture, he prompts you to put the broken vessel together. As you do this, he strikes the ground with the trident and the vessel gets filled with a silver potion. You drink it and feel how your consciousness changes. The temple seems different now. Silver mist forms from the ground and assumes the shape of entities that gather around you in a circle. Then the vessel becomes filled with another potion. This one is red. As you drink it, your consciousness shifts again, and you can see the temple lit by fiery light that was not there before. The vessel is filled several times with a black potion, blue, and golden. Each of them changes your perception and makes the temple more alive. When it ceases to appear, and the vessel, you are ready to explore the realm and communicate with its denizens. Open yourself to whatever may come to you now. When the vision fades away, travel back to your body and return to your normal consciousness. Open your eyes and close the working for the day. Okay. So, I think that just about covers it. We do have a little bit of extra time, which I'm wondering if I should share some of these visions that I had. Some of these are very brief and prompted things that I chose not to write down, and some of them were just very visual superficial and I chose to write them down. So this is something that we probably won't do for each path, but I just want to give you kind of an idea of what one might see while they're path working. You know, you get yourself into a frame of mind or a mode of consciousness where you become open to the energies of these forces, and that can perhaps cause you to experience visual things. So it looks like on the first day I had a vision of beasts and Arctic caverns scattered and speaking different languages and grunting different noises. I said, note that different refers to varied, not that they were unable to understand one another, that they were united, but they were making varied noises, not just one grunt. The next day, I had a vision that I was standing under a tree in summer, and then it became autumn, and then everything started to get blurry and fade, and then things began to turn into cartoon, like colored pencil, and then graphite, like gray pencil, and then the autumn winds blew the illustrations off the page of my mind's eye. So it's not always like super creepy, dark things. Like sometimes it's just a transitory, different way to look at things. Don't be so quick to dismiss a vision just because it turns into a cartoon or just because there's flowers and you're supposed to be in the cliff off. Like, pay attention to what you're seeing. Looks like on the third day, I had a vision of the so-called royal family and connections to the entertainers, and the strings of the kings led to the pools of fools. Okay. On the fourth day, I saw lotus flowers growing out of pools of blood. On the fifth day, I had a vision of a tundra that after traveling became a desert, and then a beach ocean, and then the ocean's bottom was open, and a fiery leviathan sprang forth. Okay. Day 6, I was... Okay. So there was certain entities that appeared before me and began lecturing me on preserving life essences into stones and bones. And then on the 7th day, I had a vision of a burning man hovering over a lake. So, yeah, these are things that might be just personal to me. You might be thinking, what does that have to do with the magician? What does that have to do with the letter Bet? The thing about the tunnels is they are much more subjective than the spheres. In my experience, the spheres are objective unconsciousness, and the tunnels are subjective unconsciousness. So you might say the spheres are collective unconsciousness, and that the tunnels are personal unconsciousness. And because of that, we may experience things differently. We may experience things different ways. On your path of Baratchial, you may see visions of how you might use your power incorrectly. You know, corruption. You might see ways that other people have used their power against you, causing you to feel inferior. It's very related to the shadow. Keep that in mind. Anyway, I think that's it for this one. I will hopefully be back with another one again tomorrow. Everybody take care. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks.